don't grow chronologically. We grow as a person. See, by that definition, I'm not old. I'm still in my 20s. Let's get to it. Welcome. Another fabulous episode of IBF On Demand. I'm your young at heart and mind and immature host, Eric Wilson. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. Thanks for the follows and subscribes. Find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you share this with your network then as well. I want to thank our sponsor for today, Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva. We're actually creeping up on our 100th episode. So if you aren't following us, make sure you follow us so you can get those notifications. You can follow and subscribe for notifications, or check us out at ibf.org. Make sure you're on their list as well, or find me on LinkedIn, because I guarantee you I'm going to be mentioning it on LinkedIn once or twice when we get to that 100th episode. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what to put together in my 100th episode. So if you have any ideas, let me know. You know, the ultimate sign of maturity is knowing you're immature. I mean, another way of saying that is knowledge is knowing you don't know what you don't know. And we're kind of relating it to us and this program. I see this in planner roles all the time. I mean, people coming out of college or, just coming into the workforce, and they want to practice everything they know or they think they've learned. And what I found is time is a very good teacher for them. In time, they pick up a lot of things and they figure out that maybe it wasn't exactly the way they thought it was. So wisdom is not age, it's just being wrong a lot. And the biggest place that you're wrong all the time probably is in demand planning. Even though I hate using that forecast is always wrong, we live in a world of ambiguity. We live in a world where, guess what? We're not dealing with perfection. So typically what we see is in tenure in a planner correlates to a better forecast accuracy. We've got studies that actually show that with IBF, that the longer you're in that role, the better you actually become at forecasting. I mean, I think it's a lot less because of that technical expertise, but it's the ability to handle the ambiguity that is in those type of roles and uncertainty that we have to deal with. The same thing goes for a lot of supply chain and supply planning roles as well. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of things you can do. But understanding that what you don't know is a bigger concern sometimes for what you do think you know and think you can control. Supply planning is all about control. And to find out that in time, the more you're in those type of roles, that there's a lot we can't control and there's a lot outside of our control. Experience teaches us both those things, whether you're in demand planning roles or supply planning roles, or probably it's relatable to any role you're in. The more you're in, the more you learn. There's other things that we need to kind of figure out. There's things that I don't know yet. There's things I'm still learning. That really becomes any type of role you're in. That becomes really the essence of it. And guess what? Companies are very similar as well. I've worked with a lot of companies and I see this growth curve that happens. And there's this growth and they are discovering and they are learning as well. And the most successful companies out there are the ones that figure out that, hey, there's things we still are learning and still developing and still being able to improve upon as well. Especially when it comes to an S&OP or IBP type process. S&OP, IBP, it's a process to align all functional areas around a unified set of assumptions for coordinated decision making. At the essence, that's basically what S&OP and IBP is. I don't care what you call it. I don't get into the acronym game. I don't care what we call it. IBF research shows there's zero correlation between the advantages you're going to get and the acronym you use. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you're doing. And it's a business process that aligns all functional areas around a unified set of assumptions. I've said that multiple times on this podcast. But like most things, there's a growth curve to the maturity of that process. There's a normal progression we see companies go through from a emerging to an essential to a next level to that vanguard organization. Companies don't automatically start off at next level and above. They have a rite of passage or a path that they go to get to that level of maturity. And what I've seen is the reason why so many companies end up stalling at that essential level and never get to that next level and above that 50% mark and get to that next level and above is because they don't know what they don't know. And many times you don't realize what you don't know and what other capabilities you have because you're clouded by your own four walls or crowded by your own bias or what you're trying to accomplish and what you think S&OP, IBP means, and you're putting it in the context of your organization alone. So with that, you get stuck in the same problem that people get stuck in all the time. We think we know enough. Companies think they're achieving enough with their S&OP processes. And they get stalled in this essential level and end up just repeating either bad habits or not striving for the capabilities that they have to be able to do. So this is really where I see maturity models for assessing your people, your process, your tools, your analytics, your KPIs. They become critical for that, in essence, third party or outside view of your process. It allows a lot of different advantages, but the main advantages is it allows you to get unstuck from that I don't know what I don't know type of mentality and start looking at other things and making some revelations to you. So, hey, there's other capabilities, there's other things we should be doing that I never knew of, or yeah, being honest, we're not doing. So some of the big advantages when you're looking at maturity models is, number one, it's a catalyst for performance improvement. We've already stated in past podcasts and that I've done, I did one on the benefits of S&OP not too long ago as well, where I really looked at the mature organization. When you get to that next level and above is where you start seeing the benefits significantly for an S&OP process. There is obviously major benefits for an S&OP process, and I highlighted those in that prior podcast. But I also stated those really kick in when you get to that next level and above. So a maturity model can help you understand where you are and where you need to go and where those benefits really start kicking in. It's that catalyst for performance improvement. The heart of an S&OP maturity model is the idea of continuous growth. It's not being satisfied with where you are, but then highlighting where you can be then as well. It's comparing your performance and key attributes of what you're doing to other organizations and what are considered best, or what I like to call next practices. It's highlighting the bad, but it's also highlighting the good as well. So you understand where you have the best opportunity to capitalize on strengths that you have, but also where you might be weaknesses as far as compared to benchmarks or compared to your peers then as well. And the other reason why a maturity model is a good catalyst for change is because it's ever changing. It's a tool for long-term growth. It grows with you. As a good maturity model, as environments change, as new opportunities and new different types of things that companies are doing, we see benefits from, it is folded into the maturity models as well. So it's a continuous benchmark, not only now, but for where you need to be in the future. So that makes maturity models a good catalyst performance for change. The other thing a big advantage of maturity models and thinking about doing a maturity model for your organizations or for your S&OP process is because it helps create a common language. One of the keys of S&OP is it brings in, aligns all functional areas. And I'm not just talking supply and demand. We're talking marketing, we're talking HR, we're talking finance, we're talking operations. There's a lot of different organizations and functions inside your company. And guess what? A lot of times they all talk different languages. Bringing them together into a common language that they all understand and can speak of, a business language that's common among all these different functions, becomes a good S&OP process. A maturity model helps bridge that gap as well and find that common language. Bringing all those different elements, all those different functions together into one type of assessment allows you to see where there's gaps in communication, where there's gaps in collaboration, where there's some gaps sometimes in the terminology and the way you're doing your S&OP process. A shared language makes sure that the performance is uniform, repeatable, and predictable over time. And it makes it easier for teams ultimately to work together more cohesively and more collaboratively. This breaks down boundaries, and a good maturity model helps break down those boundaries as well. The other thing as well is guides transformation. As I said, you can't automatically start off as a vanguard organization. Matter of fact, the companies I see that try to take on too much too soon in their S&OP processes, most of the time destined to fail because it's part of change management. It's part of being able to find that pilot, part of meeting the organization where it's at. There's a lot of other things you need to do in your growth cycle of an S&OP process. And part of that growth cycle is a transformational process because you are transforming all function of the organization. It's a business, ultimately becomes a business process. So when you're building out transformation, not only for change management, but to help create that roadmap, a good maturity model helps with that as well. The path is not always a straight line. It's not always textbook how you're going to go. I mean, I actually have a book that's out now on the practical guide for sales and operations planning, S&OP IBP. It is pretty much a roadmap for your S&OP process. But one of the things I stress in that book is it's not a straight line. It is a little bit different for each organization. You need to meet the company where it's at. The fundamentals are absolutely necessity, and those become emerging and essential steps. But when you get to that next level, you really need to find your path. A good maturity model helps you find that path. That's not always straight. It also gives you a starting point, but then will maintain you as you continue that through your journey. Make sure you're on the right path and you're not wandering off on some other rabbit holes and some other path and getting stuck in some bad habits and reinforcing those bad habits over time. This gives you your starting point and making sure you're staying on path as well. And then it gives you that roadmap or that plan for change. One of the constants you're always going to have with any type of business is there will be change. There will be time to adapt. This gives you that plan for change as you need it then as well. So a good maturity model not only will give you where you are today, give you an insights into your strengths and weaknesses today, be able to kind of compare you against your peers, compare you against benchmarks, let you know where you are on the levels. It will do all of that, but then also help provide you that assessment that provides a roadmap for where you're going and change with you as you're going in the future. Those are all great reasons to have maturity model. So for the same reason why we all need to kind of assess where we are as people, businesses, and especially S&OP processes need to assess where you are as an organization. And the great way to do that is assessments. There's a lot of great assessments out there. We have some, other ones have some. I've seen great ones developed internally as well. I'm not here saying there's only one way to do it, but find a way that works for you. Find a way that's repeatable for you. And the reason is because you need that other set of eyes or a unbiased as possible assessment of your process to help maybe figure out that, hey, there's some things we thought we knew, but we don't know what we don't know. This provides those insights for you. So with that, I want to take a little bit of my time now in this podcast to give you some of the things that you may want to look at in your current process to assess where your S&OP process is and kind of understand where you are. I said we look at things from an emerging, essential, next level, and vanguards, how we look at things. And we put a little bit of science behind those, looking at different attributes from people, process, technology, KPIs, different types of things that's measurable as well. So different attributes that fall into those over different levels, you have what our maturity level is. That said, I'm just going to give you some things that we see are common in, and see if you answer yes to these questions. S&OP is a new process, or there's currently no formal consistent process in place. Does that sound like you? If so, then you're probably an emerging type of process, and any type of assessment is going to work good for you. But let's look at some other common areas we see with organizations as well. Let's see if you answer yes to any of these questions. There is a pursuit of short-term goals, which results in a lot of firefighting, especially in your S&OP processes. You're dealing with a short-term horizon. The participants and engagement level at the S&OP process varies from month to month. You see different people coming, going, and getting consistent participation is difficult at times. You don't have a lot of executives maybe involved as well. There is no S&OP champion. There is no designated person that really owns the end-to-end process flow and the meetings and coordination of all the communication. Senior executives do not regularly attend the S&OP reviews. There's little third-party training and development that's going on. There's not a third party or another set of eyes on your S&OP process, or helping provide some feedback or at least training so everyone's talking the same language. Did you answer yes to one or more of those questions? Does that sound like your process? Well, when thinking about it, you're going to fall into one of those four broad areas. Either you're going to be an emerging, which is a new type of process. You're still going to have siloed functions, no executive support. You may find yourself then in an essential level where there is some process collaboration, but still it's owned generally by either demand or supply still. When you start getting to that next level, and guess what? Half of you are going to be out there by definition. Half of the companies that have a mature S&OP process. Go figure. Math works. But so half of you out there, you have an established process, a culture and trust of collaboration, clear roles and responsibilities. That was when you start finding a next level from a people standpoint. And then finally, vanguards are the business processes truly cross-functional. You have a good support from the C level. It's owned and run by an independent S&OP function or person. That becomes the vanguard processes. So you're going to find yourself really on that continuum of your S&OP journey. It's important to understand where you are from a people standpoint to figure out where some of the strengths are, where your weaknesses are. From a process standpoint, there's other types of questions you can start asking yourself. Number one is, do you have a standardized monthly process? Is there a structured and standardized process? And does that include a product review, a demand review, some type of supply resource review? Are you doing a pre-S&OP step? Do you need a pre-S&OP step? And do you have an executive S&OP as well? And is there a weekly element? Is there an S&OE or TAC or something for a weekly element as well? And do you separate out the longer term planning horizon into an S&OP and then management into your S&OE? And you have a clear distinction between the two. Do you have those things? Are the production and inventory, are they in constant churn? Are you constantly changing your forecast every week and production schedules every week, and you're just chasing demand, seems all the time? Is there no real one number? Does everyone really have their own version of the truth when it comes from demand to sales to finance to production to marketing to logistics? How many forecasts are out there inside your organization? And most of your meetings are really discussing the past or what's going to happen the next month or towards the end of the quarter. You're talking in what's going to happen the next quarter to make sure we hit our numbers. And you're really focused on that. And a lot of the people want to see are still granular, detailed numbers at the customer level or item level. And there's some, it's easier decisions are made, maybe in some of the meetings, but the big decisions, we got to take those out of the meeting and we've got to do some more research and then come back with your answer. So a lot of the decisions aren't made in the meeting. Once again, you're going to find yourself in 4 broad areas when it comes to process. You're going to be very reactive. Reviews are short-term horizon, mostly about reporting. So it's a reporting meeting is pretty much what you do. That's emerging. It's okay. It's part of what we see as far as that growth. But then when you get into the essential level, it's more balancing supply and demand. It's the traditional type S&OP you hear of. It's a mix of past and future horizons. Decisions are made sometimes, but you still have to take some of those things out of the meeting. When you get to that next level and above, that's balancing plans. And you're able to look at scenarios, your aggregated focus, and extended planning horizons. Finally, that vanguard level, you're balancing business objectives and your extended views, and you're fully connected to the strategy and execution in the organization. Once again, you're going to find yourself not in an absolute part of one of those stages. You're going to find pieces of each stages and be half of one and half of another. There's no absolutes, but you're going to find yourself along the continuum of your journey when it comes to process then as well. And it's important to understand where you are in the process to understand where you need to be and some of the things you can still reach for. And then finally, when it comes to information flow, KPIs, analytics, what's some of the questions you may want to ask yourself that you haven't considered? Wait, are spreadsheets still widely used and there's multiple versions of the truth within your organization? You're not alone. There's a lot of companies out there like that, exactly. Metrics are targets and not connected to the business objectives. Yeah, I have forecast accuracy as a target. I have inventory as a target for operations. Everything becomes a target, and they're not really connected as far as balance, but more so they're not connected to the strategic objectives of the business. Your primary use of technology is more for descriptive analytics, is to explain what has happened or what is happening, and for reporting purposes. And you're not using it for predictive or even prescriptive type of analytics. And there's little information shared with customers or suppliers. You're really looking at everything within inside your own 4 walls. And then finally, twice as much time is spent on developing the PowerPoints for the S&OP meetings than the meetings themselves. And sadly, there's a lot of organizations that answer yes to that questions, which is then going to put you in 4 broad categories when it comes to the information flow, the KPIs, the analytics that's being utilized. First, at an emerging level, you're very descriptive. Primarily, Excel is used for reporting purposes. When you get to the essentials, more diagnostic, functional KPIs, some systems supporting planning in the process. Next level, you start getting into predictive processes, balancing KPIs and solutions to support processes for better visibility of data. And then the vanguards, where we all want to be, it's prescriptive, business objective KPIs and use of advanced analytics and technology. Once again, you're on that continuum. You find yourself where you are. Understanding where you are is important. That's what I'm trying to stress with this podcast. Looking at where you are from a people, from a process, from an information, from analytics, from technology, from data. Understanding where you are in an organization is important to understand not only where you are now, but where you're going. There's a lot of great tools out there. There's a lot of great information out there. IBF, obviously, we have one as well. I wrote a whole book about it. We have an IBF maturity. And the best part about it is I can do a sales pitch on this because not only is this IBF on demand and it's my podcast and I'm allowed to, but it's free. You can't beat the price. We're not charging you for it because we are a membership organization. It's about fostering the growth. And we see a lot of advantages with S&OP. And we want to be at the forefront of S&OP information for you, which means we need to work together to collect that information. We have a free S&OP maturity model. Go to ibf.org, check out the maturity model. It's going to look at 18 different attributes over people, over process, over analytics, over data, over technology. It's going to look at the whole breadth of an S&OP process, a lot of the things I just talked about and more. It's a self-assessment, so it's only as good as the information you put into it, but have multiple people on your team look at it. Not just one person, and share those results among yourself. See what other people see your S&OP process maturity at. And then understand from that, it's going to give you a report out that tells you where you are as far as at different levels. It tells you where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. It will benchmark you, but then also compare you against everybody else who's taken this maturity model. Hundreds of companies that have taken the maturity model, it's going to give you your feedback and compare you against them as well, so you can see how you compare against on different attributes and where you are better and where you need to work on. So it's a great tool for you personally to work on. I highly recommend it. It is free. There's a lot of great research that went into it. We're continuing to adapt and continue to build it out as well. So please check that out. That's one tool. That said, that's not the only tool. I've seen other companies develop their own. Wonderful. There's a lot of good material out there, a lot of great information. Develop your own as well. Just try to be as unbiased as possible. Try to stretch beyond what you're doing into other areas that you may not have thought about doing before as well. There is the capability of us doing a third party. If you really get to a point where you really want to see a true unbiased, we don't have a dog in the fight, where you are, where you're going, we do offer that as well. That is an engagement, but happy to do that. You can reach out to me or reach out to IBF as well. If you want a more comprehensive, that goes through a series of interviews, look at the data, looks at the process and reports that you have, and we'll do a comprehensive third party. That's a good perspective as well. We do offer that as well. Check it out, ibf.org, or just shoot me an email at eric@ibf.org. We can get you information on that as well. Final thing I do want to mention is I said I did write a book on this. That's the reason I'm giving this podcast, not because I want to sell the book. No, the reason I'm giving a podcast because I'm passionate about this. I think this is important. I've been working on for a couple years now on really developing good maturity models, good information, understanding where companies are. This is where I've been spending a lot of my time for the past couple years. I'm a nerd. It's what I do in my free time. I'm weird that way. But I am passionate about that. That's the reason I wanted to share this with you. So with this, I have written a book with a co-author, I'm on this book that we've put together. And actually, there's lots of co-authors because 40% of this book is written by practitioners and people in this field who are doing this. So I utilize their information, their best practices, their next practices, and share it in a compilation book. It's Practical Guide for Sales and Operations Planning, S&OP IBP, and it really lays out everything I've talked about between a people, process steps, process attributes, technology, information flow. It lays it out. It talks about the different levels, emerging, essential, next level, and vanguard for each one. It's a good reference book. You can obviously get it, read it cover to cover, and you get a lot out of it. Or if you just want to pick it up and figure out where you are and figure out what aspects you want to bring in, because you do want to create your own maturity model in-house. That's what this is created for. I'm excited about this book, not because it's a new book, but because really my passion went into this book, and I'm excited to share it with you. So hopefully when I talk about maturity models, that is another option for you as well. Check out the Practical Guide for S&OP, Sales and Operations Planning, S&OP IBP. It's available at ibf.org. It's available on Amazon, wherever you want to get your book. It's available, so check it out. It's an exciting opportunity to be able to share a little bit about that. Well, that's a wrap. I think I'm done adulting for one day and going back to my inner child now. My name is Eric. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. I said reach out to me. Find out more about the book. If you want to do more information about a third-party assessment, happy to do anything like that. Or if you have some just information you want to share. I love to connect with people. Reach out to me, eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. Thank you to our sponsor, wonderful sponsor for close to 4 years now, Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. I didn't say that very well, but they're a great sponsor. I've actually worked with them many times. I've used them personally, so I can personally recommend them. That's a great sponsor. Check out ibf.org. A lot of great content there. I said we're a membership organization. We're here to service an organization for you, professional organization. So check out the content we have. A lot of free content, free maturity model, free information out there. There's a lot of other conferences coming up, so check out IBF.org for everything that's going on there as well. And remember, one mature thing everyone should do. Don't forget, wash your hands.